Easy E. How are we? Easy E. Oh wow. Holy delay, Batman.
There is just one thing I need.
Oh, I don't know what was worse, the awful sound from your phone, the awful sound from your voice. Good God Almighty.
Ooh, Shawnee. I'm hoarse because I've been singing this for the last day. It's December 1st, baby.
Oh, that is what 241 episodes, and that is by far the worst intro we've ever done. And I'm a Christmas person. I love Christmas, but God Almighty, that was horrific. You got to start telling me what you got a plan to do for the intros from now on. Put me foot down.
No, I'm keeping it. I don't care. And it was played from a paid Spotify account, so they can't come at us. I paid for the rights to that song. Johnny, it's December. I can officially celebrate it. People have been putting up trees. I've been avoiding all posts about Christmas on Instagram, but now it is time. I'm excited.
Good. I'm excited as well. We're spending all the weekend trying to get decorations and stuff around the house, and it's a complete blank canvas and new house. For people out in the podcast to hear about me doing my decorations, people are here to, it's any given run day. And speaking of running, while people are getting set up for Christmas over here over the weekend, over in Valencia, people did the marathon. That seems to be a very popular one abroad. We had Aisling Wire, who's in the podcast last week. She got a PB over there. The boys from T Pro Racing Cork were over there. It seemed to be a good weekend. Seems to be a great spot to do a marathon.
Yeah, it is. It is one of those, and it does tend to pick up a lot of calendars. And it seems to be in a good kind of, I know everything is not always based around Dublin, but for those who are doing it, it seems to be a good one. That's enough time to recover and again, a winter race. And to be fair, it was unknown for a lot of them due to the flooding and stuff that was happening. And the race still went ahead, which is, I suppose, great for the local economy. It's great for everyone who took part that it could go ahead. So well done to everyone who took part in the race. Well done on the PBs. They are definitely, like me, looking forward. They're Christmas now for a lot of people. That's it. It's rest and recover time till January, and it's good. The other thing, Sean.
Yeah.
What do you get people for Christmas in general? You know, like I was asked the other day, what do you want for Christmas? I'm like, oh, do you know what? It's for me, like I don't want anything. And when I do want something, usually I go and get it myself. But then there's those purchases that you're like, I want it, but I can't justify it. So my heart rate monitor has gone a little bit questionable. So
right.
If Katie's listening, Katie. But not only that, like it's just good. I think what we probably we should probably put together that what do you get your runner for Christmas? You know, put together a list, Sean, get it out there. So the likes of our two sponsors, Perform and Ultra Pure Labs, they're doing good deals for Christmas. And I was actually the Black Friday sale that got me thinking about it. I was like, actually, this is genius. If I can just get my stock up at Christmas, that could get me through to March, April. I could be in a good place. So
change the Christmas socks for running socks.
The Christmas socks for running socks. You know, you can get little goodies. Next Christmas, we're not ready for this. Next Christmas, we're going to have a shop here in Annikip Run Day. We're going to have it for 1 month only, just so you can buy gifts for your runners. I'm excited. It's different being away. It's always different being away for Christmas, but it's still good when you bring home and you can hear a little bit of stress in everyone's voice because they've got 40 million parties and 40 million presents to buy. So it's nice to be slightly separate, but you always miss home at Christmas. It's
absolutely.
It's definitely very, very different.
I usually do something this time of year. I'm always big on like advent challenges and all the rest this time of year. And like last year, I did kilometer 1 on day 1, kilometer 2, day 2. But I can't really do it this year because I have High Rocks coming up. And also, this 5K still consumes me so much so that I got caught up myself over the Black Friday sales. And I'm officially, I know
you did.
I couldn't do alphas. I got the Vaporflies. And I don't know much. The difference was 100 quid and I couldn't do it, but I had 25%
yeah, but Sean,
off. And I went
if you waited for Christmas, you could have said, look, I'll just get me them and I'll put something towards it. You could have got them. Now, if you get 20.05, I'm going to remind you of that moment and go, 100 quid, you could have been done with this now.
Yeah. Yeah, it will annoy me. It will annoy me, but they're in the box. They won't even be taken out the box until January 1st. So I know we should always wear. Here's the thing with carbon, actually, because you get so little wear out of them. I don't want to wear them unless I'm racing. but you should try them before you race. So when I got my last pair of carbons, the Hokas, the first day I wore them was last year's Dundee, earlier this year's Dundee 50K. I remember talking to the boys from Team Pro Racing Cork, Shane and Anto, and they were like, you can't wear new runners the very first time before a 50K. You're going to blister up. Thankfully, I didn't blister. They're bright and shiny going through a forest. But anyway, do you wear carbons before the start of like to break them in? But then
So
you've only got
I'm
so
very
much mileage in them.
I'm very much like you, as in, like, I know people who have 14, 15, 16 different pairs of running shoes. And I'm like, how in the game of God can you do that? But I'm like that. I know that there's a finite limit on them. So I'm very precious about them. But I suppose if you look at it, you're only doing a 5K. So even if you just did a couple of 1-2K kind of runs in them or speed work in them just to kind of take the edge off them a little bit, you should be okay. You're not gonna, okay, you can blister over a 5K, but I don't think it's quite the same as over a marathon or over a 50K. So if they're just your get me through a 5K shoe, I think maybe wear them once in a kind of a effort just to get used to them, and then go for it, and then never wear them again just so you can use them for your next 5K. Keep them for 5 years.
2K, but do 2K run before the event. I'll have the other runners there with me. But and here's an awful thing in my mind as well. If I don't get the sub 20, I'm gonna be like, well, I shouldn't have changed runners. It was definitely down to the runners, and that puts my mind all over the shop again. And look, that's the goal now. That's my head going towards that. And I've always got different things. And some years, like I remember I did the marathon back in 2021. I think it was the thoroughbred, and I was just done with running. And I was like, right, I'm getting myself back into the gym for 2 months and just focusing completely on gym work. And for that, that's where our next guest comes in, because he's done that and turned into like 3% body fat at one stage. Absolutely shredded wee he was. But then the funny thing about that is I've known him before the podcast, and he was always a gym kind of person. But a lot of people in their 30s now are turning into the running we've had in the podcast to just slowly go from the gym into runs and long distance runs, and the journey of doing, like our next guest, the 80K Ecotrail and just different endurance events. It's mad seeing that shift more and more from guests come onto the podcast.
Yeah, and I think that comes down to, well, one, age. I suppose when you're younger, running was always a punishment. It was always pre-season training. It was always, oh, I have to run, and PE, or, it was always a punishment unless you were into it or unless you enjoyed your sport. And then as people get older, they kind of learn that running is not all about maximum effort. And there's a lot more people talking about it and taking it easy. Run clubs and social groups who are just out just to get out for 40 minutes, So I think as you get older, you kind of lose that punishment element, and you start to find that enjoyment in it if you take those first couple of steps and go on a couple of runs. But it's, this one is definitely, it's an interesting one to change it up, particularly as everyone's looking at their goals for the new year with gym and running. So really, really good episode.
And with that said, it's this week's episode of the Any Given Run Day podcast. Let's go. Our next guest on the Any Given Run Day podcast has over 17 years experience in the personal training industry, from gyms in Ireland to spending his last 7 years working through the ranks in one of the world's top PT companies in ultimate performance in the UK. He's now back in Ireland, and not only is he venturing into the online coaching world, but he also the ultramarathon world, having recently completed the 80K Ecotrail in Wicklow. Owen Mulrane, welcome to this week's episode of the Any Given Run Day podcast. How are you getting on?
I'm very well, Sean. How are you? Thank you very much for having me on.
Not too bad, Owen. Not too bad. Eric's like, normally jumps in here with a question or psychs me about something. He's just waiting to go.
I just think it's better to let you be more uncomfortable without a slagging. You always have to expect the unexpected with me, Sean. You were getting too familiar with the slagging. So, I was being nice, and then you didn't know what to do. Owen,
I really didn't. I just expected it.
You are very welcome on this podcast with me and my piece of shit co-presenter, Sean.
There it is.
So, Ireland to UK. Obviously, I always ask, how did you get into sport? How did you get into personal training? We get to that. The one thing that stood out from the intro is obviously population difference, Ireland and UK. Is there a higher standard? Are we holding our own here in Ireland? What is the difference as a standout for you between Ireland and the UK in terms of strength, conditioning, performance, and coaching?
I think most certainly education and standards when I ventured over to England was quite considerably different in terms of putting over return on investment for clients, in terms of competition, in terms of, I suppose, access to external courses. There was a lot more going on in the UK. Definitely, it seems now that I'm kind of entering into the online world and I've got more contact with coaches back home. The standards definitely have risen in Ireland as well, which is absolutely fantastic to see. But yeah, definitely when I went over first, big difference, big difference.
Oh, one of the things that was a big difference for me, you have a post on your Instagram from April 22 when you were over in Ultimate Performance in Leeds. And I couldn't tell if it was a staff photo or you guys were doing like a Christmas calendar or something because you are all shredded wheat, you're all in shape, you're clearly like training for this moment for a photo shoot and stuff. And like, if I saw this and for some reason had to go to Leeds, I was like, I'm not applying there. Obviously you're working with Nick Mitchell and stuff there, and it's like phenomenal a guy he is. How intense was that getting in and doing photo shoots and looking the part to be that personal trainer for people over there?
I think looking the part, I suppose walking the walk is always a must for any personal trainer. Going through that dieting phase, going through that lean gaining phase, going through I suppose, understanding the emotions that you go through when you are hungry, when you do have social occasions, when you do need to, I suppose, have that empathy with clients. So for everyone that came through the doors as a trainer, it's imperative that you don't always have to be in that shape. Like, I don't think very many people walk around with the fake tan and the baby oil and
All right, you don't know how I live my Fridays, Owen.
Not saying that. But yeah, you definitely don't have to stay there. But I think it's hugely important to get there at least once, twice, and understand how the client is going to feel throughout that time. But yeah, it's an intimidating place to be for any trainer that's walking through the doors. The standards of every single client has to get that return on investment. There's a lot asked of you, but it just makes you better, which is just the name of the game, really.
For people who don't know, what is Ultimate Performance and high-end personal training?
So essentially, Ultimate Performance would be built on a lot of body composition. So you'll know it as well. 90% of clients that will come to us will want some sort of weight loss or they'll want to look leaner. I don't think anyone doesn't want to look good in a swimsuit when they go on holidays, So I suppose the company was built on return on investment for clients. So essentially every single person that comes to us, we need to have the answer for whatever question that might crop up, whenever it's building nutrition plans, exercise execution, and anything else in between, any sort of stress, sleep management, everything and anything. So yeah, the company itself is great because it kind of raised it for me. It definitely raised the game of the industry over in the UK. It definitely raised me up over the past 8 years. So it's tough, but it's rewarding.
I'm gonna build to this you doing the Ecotrail, but because 1 minute you're in Ultimate Performance, you're getting shredded, but before you went over there, I didn't notice you got into powerlifting for a bit as well.
I did, yeah. I kind of like to throw my hat into all rings. Yeah, I did a couple of competitions in powerlifting. So I did one in Arklow, and then I did the Ireland one. I qualified for the Worlds under 75 kilo. I never actually ended up going to Worlds, but I qualified for Worlds. So again, just kind of seeing what the body's capable of.
Have you got sore, aching muscles? Then you need to ask for the UltraPure Laboratories Muscle Recovery range in your local pharmacy or health store. Trusted by athletes and tried and tested by ourselves, this great value and guarantee Irish range includes Epsom salt gels with arnica, perfect if you have no time or access to a bath.
The Wintergreen Heat Rub Cream, ideal for targeted heat support.
You just need to be careful where you put it, Sean, not for the faint-hearted. And a favourite of ours, the magnesium oil spray, brilliant for restless legs and muscle cramps.
Ice cold menthol gel with arnica. Excellent for cooling and soothing tired feet and muscles.
And as we're talking to marathon runners and athletes, the relaxing essential oil muscle spray with 9 essential oils plus arnica, a gem of a product, and most importantly, vegan too.
For bumps and bruises, ask for ultra pure arnica cream. And last but not least, their magnesium rich Epsom salts. We go through buckets of these. You just can't beat an ultra pure Epsom salts bath.
And it's the first wash you've had in years, Sean, bath or shower. So Ultra Pure, thanks so much for helping us out with that one. Ultra Pure Laboratories is an Irish-owned and award-winning family business based in County Mayo. Shop the Ultra Pure Muscle Recovery range in-store or online from pharmacies and health stores. Find out more at ultrapurelabs.ie. And by listening to this advert, you have helped this podcast and you are supporting Irish businesses. So let's get back to this week's episode of the Any Given Run Day podcast.
Just show your hand in different things and find what's good for you. I saw your numbers online and you're a dick. Because not even fast. I'm like, I was curious to see what I took. I looked and I was like, right, 210 plus a deadlift. I'm like, go away. I'm not ever touching that. My back snapped even looking at the numbers.
It's all right. Those numbers are no longer after running that 80k. It's all right. They're gone for a while.
When you were looking before Sean loses his shit over your numbers, at what point did you realize, like, when we get most guests on, they all say, I just threw my hat in the ring be it with running, which is the foundation of all, but endurance is pretty much what we talk about. At what point did you realize in life that, do you know what, sport is where I want to be? What was your calling into it? And because when we talk about these numbers, people want to know, how did you get here and what drove you to here and what motivates you to keep looking for these extras?
It's a very good question. I don't think there was an actual time that I didn't really want to be involved in sport. I think throughout my whole life, I always had something going on. I always played Gaelic football. I always played football. There was always something going on. I'm not sure. I really enjoy a challenge. I enjoy something that's going to throw me out of my comfort zone. I think very much so the 80k is the longest leap that I've had to do. Numbers wise, lifting aside, like everything really aside, the endurance and the longer endurance was definitely something that was really outside of my comfort zone and definitely the biggest challenge by far. But yeah, I think maybe it's sadistic, maybe. I'm not sure.
It's such an extreme from the getting in shape to lifting heavy to it is from one end literally to the other. And one thing I'm always asking when I do it, and I don't do it as good, is that were you worried about getting into endurance and doing marathons and ultra marathons that you wouldn't be able to do as much strength training or keep those gains, or you'd have to be more so on the road and you wouldn't not look as good, but basically feel as good because of all the running and the lack of strength training? Did that cross your mind, or was it just like, I just want a challenge now and start getting into running?
Yeah, it definitely crossed my mind, but it's one of those kind of pills you're going to have to swallow if you want to push to any extreme. I think when you look at the powerlifting kind of feats, you're not going to be the same endurance wise. When you look at the body composition pieces, when you go to any extreme, it's never going to be, you can't really cross them all. Well, some people can on the internet, but I'm definitely not them. But I think it's to go to those extremes, you're always going to land somewhere on your feet in the middle ground. And then those fitness and kind of longevity, and it's probably something where the kind of endurance came is more for that longevity. You should, like, doing the powerlifting stuff or even the body composition stuff, for me, it never felt truly healthy. I couldn't walk outside the house and go run a quick 10k or run a half marathon with ease. So just having that kind of crossover, I think the endurance with lifting, I probably stayed lifting 4 or 5 times a week still with it, with ramping up. So you can kind of cross that over, and it seems kind of nearly a happy middle ground.
It seems like the age-old argument between those who run and those who lift. And myself and Sean have definitely flirted on both sides of the line. And have been conflicted on both sides. Like right now, I much prefer lifting than I do prefer running. Do you think as a trainer, can you do one? Like obviously, okay, we take powerlifting. It's very specific, so you're training to that one goal. But as an average guy walking around, is it better to have that happy medium of the two? Or are we just crazy pushing ourselves to 80Ks? Is that just another level of stupidity that we all do and try and lift and this? Or what do you think in terms of us living our everyday lives? What is the best medium?
I think both need to work together, to be honest. I think a smarter level of programming, and it's one of the reasons why I got a coach who's done, well, he's done Deca Ironman and all sorts of madness that I'll never attempt. But to get someone's take on, I suppose, the intricacies of structuring a strength training program while still ramping up into kind of weeks that are 80, 90K and things like that. And I think that's imperative. If you want to be healthy, you probably want to cross the 2 over. I don't think it's madness to keep the 2 of them. I think it's a must. I think when you look at the top people in the world, the runners, they're going to have strength training programs. You know, the top level athletes are going to have, even in kind of high numbers that are lifting high numbers, they are going to have some sort of conditioning as well. You know, so I think it's imperative that we have aspects. We might not, obviously we'll have to prioritize one at certain times, but throughout the year, you definitely need to have aspects of them.
How do you find, because I find I love lifting. I actually think it's probably the most instant satisfaction. Consistency in lifting, I think, is far, what's the word? It's expedited in terms of your gains. You can see it. You can look in the mirror. You know, like we talked about you in the when you look like a lot of models getting up in your baby oil and tan. But when you lift weights, that feeling is very visible. When you run a marathon, people look at you and go, "Really? Did you really run a marathon?" So, at what point do you? So for me, I always suffer with: is it better to look better or is it better to perform better? And you haven't done it to such a high level. How do you combat that now? Because obviously, you know, running 80Ks is detrimental to weight gain and muscle gain and all the sciences behind it. How do you balance? Because I look at photos of me and Sean when Sean was still ripped, but I was trying to be ripped. And I'm just like, where has he gone? You know, and how do you cope with that as you move into the likes of the ultramarathon?
I suppose it's just accepting that your body is going to adjust. You're not going to look as full. You're not going to have the same amount of muscle tissue, but it's also thinking about your body is the positives. I suppose for me at the moment, I definitely don't look the same as what I did 4 or 5 months ago when I did a photo shoot. And then that's absolutely okay. That body back then wouldn't have carried me through a 50K. It definitely wouldn't have carried me through an 80K. And that was the job at hand at that time. I probably will not run as much over the next few months and go back lifting a little bit more. But I suppose these things sort of compound over time. If we think about like when you started lifting first, you'll get a pump and you'll see where you're going to be in a couple of months in the future. And the same can be said of, you can probably condition yourself to be able to run these distances and still look very, very athletic and lean and pretty good in a mirror. So there is probably a destination. It is just that time. I saw a few guys out there that are running the 80 at the weekend, and their quads were popping out, and I was very jealous. You know, it is one of those things. But I looked at a couple of Stravas, and they're eating 80Ks for breakfast. You know, so it is probably one of those things in time. But I would always say, you know, your grassroots, your weight training is always kept, and then you can add on the endurance on top of it, and then you'll probably have to drop a little bit as you specialize. But I think just time, and it can get there.
It's mad now that you talked earlier about, you know, weight training and then getting a bit of running, leading to longevity. And the buzzword on the internet now is that's called a hybrid athlete, where you could run and train. Whereas before that used to be just training. How, like, and then they're like the one thing I'm getting asked a lot now is how do you combine weight training and running? And like, so if you're going for a long run weekend, when do the legs come back in for it? So what would an average training day look like for you? And what are your thoughts on a hybrid athlete?
Well, an average training day, well, obviously throughout the week it's going to be very different, but there's always going to be some days where it's 2 days. You know, if you want to get all your runs in, you want to get all your strength sessions in, there you're going to have to be 2 days. The hybrid athlete is a great buzzword at the moment. It's fantastic. I think I watched one Instagram reel where it said, what was it? Average lifter and shit runner. It's really what not.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking of.
I think Sean has that tattooed on his back.
I felt very seen when I saw that. But it's you know what? It's including a lot more people. I think Hyrox is the word on everyone's lips where it's concluding a lot more people. A lot more people are getting in. And I think a lot of the younger generation that we probably would have seen abusing their body, just lifting weights in the gym and becoming a little bit unhealthy, have another outlet now and they're a little bit healthier, which is great to see. But I don't think we're like, athlete is a word I'd always reserve for the top end of people. It wouldn't be a word I might call myself a weekend athlete, but I wouldn't use it for myself, and I wouldn't use it for very many people. It's the top end of the people that are really pushing the boundaries and that are special. Like you've seen it in your races. There's people that are blessed, they're special, they're, you know, not saying they haven't worked hard, but they're going to always be a cut above.
Looking to recover faster,
No.
train harder,
No.
and perform better?
And then what?
Perform Nutrition is one of Ireland's leading sports nutrition brands with a number of great tasting protein powders, a range of vitamins, as well as other supplements such as creatine. All products are made in the GMP facility in the west of Ireland, and they have a range of batch tested and informed sports certified products. Perform is trusted by a number of Olympians, High Rocks champions such as Sean Noble, he was in the podcast.
Yeah, right, he was.
Also CrossFit Games athletes such as Emma McQuaid and many more. Perform's goal is to offer the highest quality, best tasting nutrition products for competitive prices, and now you can get an extra 25% off all products with the code AGR on their website, performnutrition.com.
25%. I'm typing it in now. And don't forget, we are supporting Irish companies. You are supporting this podcast by listening to this advert. So support Irish, get behind your podcast and get behind your local businesses. And until then, let's get back to the podcast.
Athletes are those kind of people you see competing on TV. Around Christmas time, I usually just, watch my diehards and I'll watch my football, American football around there. Had I been watching terrestrial TV, if they still call it that, around Christmas 2022, around Stevenson's Day, had I switched on Ireland's Fittest Family, I may have seen you. How was that? We didn't even know you were on it.
Why do you look so embarrassed? Is it because you went to the UK and came back for the Fittest Family? Is that why you're so embarrassed? Owen, don't be like that.
That's why I went back to the UK afterwards. Jeez. Yeah, so my cousin, you might know of Facebook or Instagram, or you might have seen her live, Emma Doran, she's a comedian. She got asked to do the Ireland's Fittest Families, and so she gave me a call. So it was me, Emma, Emma's daughter Ella, and then my auntie, who's in her mid-60s. So we took part as a team. Now we didn't do very well, but we had a good day. I wouldn't say we competed.
Yeah, I saw the article, I saw you pictured.
All right, I still wear the t-shirts around thinking I'm a celebrity. It's all right.
And what, obviously, athlete, you've been around some good people, you've trained some good people, you have pushed yourself, and as you say, look, weekend athlete, and I think that's more your modesty, because there are people who will listen to this podcast and will see what you've done and go, that's pretty much athlete to me. What does it take? And I suppose you mentioned earlier that, you have to get in the mind of the client. What does it take to get from that ground zero to pushing towards put like, okay, we're not talking Olympic standard, but on a personal standard, on the average human standard, to be pushing the boundaries of their limits and to be making like drastic changes over the year or two, because you've spent a lot of time in personal training.
Yeah, I suppose the age-old consistency is always going to be the big piece of the puzzle. But I would say consistency with a structured plan and some sort of methodology. And oftentimes I see it in the fitness industry when people go into something, I suppose people will walk into a gym 4 or 5 times a week and then they'll expect to get to this end position without considering frequency, without considering their structure, without considering what their intake is, what they're expending throughout the week or days. I suppose getting someone in their corner or asking the right questions. I'm very much a fan of getting the right person in my corner. And once you have that, and once you understand, and once you know you're going to get to that position, then you're more than likely going to become consistent. And you're more than likely going to take the action, do the runs, do the training sessions, and also eat the right food. I suppose it's very hard to do for anyone, myself included, or anyone that's looking to get in shape or looking to compete or do any of these tasks, if they don't know they're going to get there or they don't have that kind of structure.
We always say seeing is believing. And I know from our bouts of fitness and for me, from fat to fitness and back to fat and back to fitness again, that seeing is definitely believing. And when you see progress, you start to kind of believe in the process. And I suppose, at what point do you think, because a lot of people here are probably looking at Christmas, they're probably saying, oh, the year is over, it's game over for me now. We'll wait till January and sure, we'll just enjoy ourselves for the next little while. And that's what people they fall into that mentality. But how long in reality do people take to kind of build that confidence, see the change in themselves, and then build on that confidence? So if people are thinking, you know what, I've blown the year, let's just start next year. What do you say for clients who work with you? Give me 3 weeks and I'll show you a difference. Give me 6 weeks, I'll show you a difference. What way does it work for people? And I know they're the last to see it, and I know it's every person is individual. It's a very broad statement, but what do you think is a ballpark for people if they're going to set goals for themselves?
It's going to be very different from person to person, but well, give me 1 week and I'll show you a difference, really. In terms of like, if a client comes in for weight loss, you can give them the answers day one, you can give them that structure, you can give them positive reinforcement from that change when we look at kind of scale weight, when we look at from a visual, even when we're looking at photos. So you don't need a huge amount of time and you can do a lot. Like from now to Christmas, we've got 13, 14 weeks. If someone wanted to do 2 to 3 stone, 2.5 stone, it's doable, depending on their starting weight and what their history is. And then from like I suppose building muscle tissue, obviously this is going to be a longer piece of the puzzle, and seeing huge return in that time is going to be very hard. But building those habits and also using all the Christmas dinner for your extra gains, is going to help. So it's creating those habits. The more you repeat the habit is always the more likely it's going to be ingrained. I know a lot of people will look for the number of times or the amount of, I suppose, the days. People come up with this number of 21 days or 66 days. But being realistic, if you repeat a task 3 or 4 times a day over a month, you're more than likely going to keep repeating that. It's not going to be the amount of days, it's repeated tasks. Even if someone, in terms of like food knowledge, if someone were to track their food every single day and gain knowledge on their food from now until Christmas, they'll be well versed and they'll be set for success. So they could do a huge amount of work to make sure their 2025 or even 2024 is successful. So yeah, if they give me a week.
And it is, and look, and everyone needs to look at them. And as you said, it's very individual. When you look at obviously athletes, then in the terms like you when you're in your full, I suppose, potential fat loss? You're at the minimums, you're at your weakest, but you're looking your best. How conflicting is it then when you have the likes of me coming into your clinic and saying, I want to look like you, but I don't want to sacrifice. I don't want to do this. How conflicted are you when we see on social media and we see all these athletes and as we call them, athletes who are professional, they're putting themselves and their bodies in this position for a finance or a gain or sponsorship, or even some who are just doing it for themselves. How conflicted are you when someone comes in and you're lifestyle and a healthy training plan that helps them just be a better parent with a fitness lifestyle, and then going, I want to look like you? Like, how conflicting is that for you? Because we all know the sacrifices that it takes to get into that shape.
Yeah, I wouldn't actually, I'd probably have just an honest conversation with someone at that point. Give them the knowledge of obviously what it's going to take and then what kind of sacrifices. But I nearly used myself as a little bit of a guinea pig in the last photo shoot I did, where I didn't sacrifice any kind of meals out with my partner. I didn't sacrifice. I think I had 8 occasions where I had a few pints, but I just more so limited the pints. So I use that as a little bit of a trial of a 12 weeks to see how much or how little could I sacrifice? What's the kind of lowest barrier? And then could I still get into that shape? Because I suppose exactly what you're saying, the majority of people that will come to me or will come to any personal trainer, they don't want to sacrifice everything. They don't want to sacrifice normality. And I suppose the only one thing I would say to everyone is, do they really want to have a 6-pack abs? And what is it actually really going to bring to their life? It looks good, feels pretty good, but like, you can probably achieve it over a longer duration of time, being nice and consistent without sacrificing it. It might not bring all that much. The consistency, the discipline might be the number one achievement, which is what we usually find. The discipline and the, I suppose, the fact that they've been true to themselves and upheld their promise to themselves is usually the victory.
When you were doing those 12-week kind of using yourself as a guinea pig and getting to certain dates, I know in the past when I did like a 6-week kind of challenge towards something, towards a post or a picture or something, and you get there, I just sometimes feel like, I'm done now. And then, 6 weeks later, all of a sudden it starts to creep back. When you got to those photo shoot days, whether it was yourself or the guys in UP doing that, the week or two after, was it hard to stay on track with that, or was it kind of like those habits were all just set and you were in that shape, or were you like, what's the next goal now?
Yeah, well, I was probably lucky that I had a marathon as the next goal, so I was kind of still kind of in training mode, and I was still running through all that time. And I think it's very, you probably need to have a little bit of a goal past that goal, another bit of a function. Food wise, to be honest, I wasn't too low on food rocking into that. I had some depletion days and then some kind of refeed days. Like my refeed days up into it were 3,500 calories for the 3 days before it. So I wasn't hungry. I wasn't tired. I felt pretty good. So I didn't really go out and binge or, yeah, it was all right. So I just kind of rocked back into my new routine. So just brought calories to maintenance and then stuck with the kind of structure I had before, and then just kept going, really.
So talk me through this for a second. The photo shoot there, you knew the 12-week beforehand, you were going to get yourself in shape for this photo shoot to go towards what I assume was the Leeds Marathon next, towards the Ecotrail, the 80K. So how far back did you plan that you were going to build this towards this 80K Ecotrail we'll talk about in a few minutes?
So it probably started when I ran. I probably wasn't too unfit. I was playing football at the time, but I went out to run a 10K in October, November last year. And I couldn't do it for the life of me. I couldn't do it. I got to about 7.8K and I was like, my legs are done, my lungs are done. And I think I was pushing pace, or I was trying to push pace, and it wasn't pacey at all. But yeah, I just didn't have it in me. And I to be honest, I was a bit upset with myself that as a fitness professional that I'm not able to do a 10K, not able to get through it. And then I just made a decision that, okay, realistically, the person that can walk outside and do a 10K, what's that person's actions? Realistically, they're going out 2 to 3 times a week, twice the minimum on average over a year period, and they can rock out and do a 10K in 50 minutes and they feel comfortable and life's good and they're healthy. So I made that decision then, really, that I needed to put something bigger than me, harder than I've done before, and something that was more aerobic based. So,
Had you done a marathon before?
no, I done a half in Manchester about 3, 4, 5 years ago. 5 years ago. The longest run.
So for most people, I was going to say that most people at this stage would go, right, big challenge, marathon, and you just went bypass that 80K.
Yeah, I've never been too intelligent, I'm afraid. I just jumped the gun. To be honest, as well, like, I suppose the thoughts of moving home were definitely in my head. I've been in England, I suppose, still am currently, but I'll be moving home next month. But yeah, I've been in England a long time, and I probably want to connect a bit with being back home, and what better way and run through your home county and see the sites that you don't really see day to day, like parts of the Wicklow way I never seen before. And so there was a lot of kind of pieces that kind of crossed off and crossed over each other, really.
Sorry, I just have one on that
Right.
before we get into the event itself, which you did so well in. Haven't spent so long, I suppose, in the UK in that kind of weightlifting kind of industry. Your perception of fitness, having done that 10K, has that changed now forever? Do you measure your fitness on how far you can kind of push your body in all aspects? Or because weightlifting is weightlifting and everyone says don't do cardio, they all hate cardio. And the fact that you couldn't do a 10K is kind of sat with you a little bit. So has that changed your perspective on what fitness is?
I don't think so. I suppose I just forgot the priority on it. I'd still would have had the priority for a lot of clients, but just for myself. I think, well, I've noticed it through the years, but you'll see it in my first photos, even when I did that bit of a photo shoot. It's, you kind of let yourself go. You let yourself slip from time to time, and you kind of you sink away a little bit from the fitness, or you fall not out of love with it, but you just fall out of passion for yourself at certain times. But maybe it's definitely heightened the importance of it. Maybe it's heightened. It probably has affected how I'd program a little bit, definitely. So yeah, it probably has in certain ways, but it is definitely a piece that I forgot from myself.
Before we get back to Ireland and the Ecotrail, the Leeds Marathon, would you recommend it for people listening that can't get to Dublin or anything like that, would like to do a marathon abroad? Any go to a marathon, or was it just I lived in Leeds, I needed a marathon, it was on my doorstep?
It's very good. You'll have a road called the Ultramarathon, which is about a 5K incline on the way back. It's about 28 kilometers in. That was torture. It was 30 degrees on the day, and it just wouldn't stop. People on the side of the road kept saying, "You're nearly there. It's just around this corner." It was never around the corner. Never was around the corner.
It's the worst thing to tell people.
It was awful. But I have to say, spectators, the last 2-3K there's thousands of people. It's a full occasion. It's Rob Burrows marathon. Obviously, he passed away this year, so I can only imagine next year it's going to be even bigger and better. Everyone's at the side of the street cheering you on, your name's on your tag, so they're actually cheering you on individually. So I definitely recommend it. And everyone's at the side of the street with pints. It makes you nice and jealous, but it does make you run quicker.
And
Definitely recommend.
The hill just turned me off straight away. That 5K incline, the 28 mark.
That
I'm like,
rules
"Ah."
out Leeds. Thanks for that one. See you later, Leeds.
That 30 degrees. No, not a hope. After that, then
But
you you built, you did a couple of 50Ks and stuff then to lead towards the Ecotrail. How was your mindset heading into your first 80K race? And the Ecotrail, speaking of hills, the elevation is absolutely no joke. I mean, you got a great day for it. Getting to that starting line. How were you feeling for
nervous, very nervous. So I'd only done one other hill run. So I did and 52K in the Peak District in August. But other than that, I've been doing all my running on the canal, which is very flat. So like 100-meter elevation for 50K. So essentially just missed out all the hills. So yeah, looking at Brayhead, looking at Sugarloaf, looking at Loch Tay, it was a bit daunting to say the least. But I just knew that, like, look, I had a day of work ahead of me. That's the only way I could think of it in my head. I had 12 hours of work and I just had to get it done. And luckily, I just about got it done.
it is you got a great day for it. Last year was a complete, the rain just it looked miserable. Like the pictures and all just looked overcast. But what I saw of it looked like a great day. That starting line heading across the seafront and then heading up Brayhead.
Absolutely.
I thought
The year before, I think, was torrential rain. So apparently they were walking up Loch Tay and there was a river coming down and they were wading through the river going up the hill. So I think a lot of people didn't finish the year before, but for us, it was, do you know what? It wasn't too hot. It wasn't too cold. It didn't rain. Probably perfect for running conditions. And absolutely amazing. Like, we got up to the top of Brayhead as the sun's coming up. There's an Ellen Piper at the top of Brayhead. You know, all the stuff that you'd love to see. Same when you're up at the top of the Sugarloaf. And just, yeah, absolutely fantastic day all around. And even just coming over Loch Tay, you know, the sun's coming down across the mountains. Yeah, it wasn't too windy. I couldn't have asked for anything better, really.
Was there a point?
Was
in
there
that
any
race
point?
you? So I think Sean's about to ask the same one. Was there any point in that race that you went, "Fuck this, give me weightlifting any day of the week"? Or I know we're on a podcast and we're saying it's all rosy, but me and Sean know, and every listener knows it's not. Was there any point you said, "I'm going back to the gym. I'm never doing this shit again"?
Yeah, like every kilometer. There was a couple of points. I got to the top of the Sugarloaf and I called my girlfriend Kathy and I said to her, I'll be back in about 9.5, 10 hours. And I got to the top of the Sugarloaf and I called her and I said, this is no 10-hour run. Not for me anyway. I was like, I might see it tonight or I might see it tomorrow. And then I think coming at the bottom of Howard's Court, and then you're climbing up towards Loch Tay, and it's just constant. It just doesn't let up on you. There as well, I thought, this is a bit of a piss take now. They are. I thought, to be honest, there was a couple of times in it I thought I could be done. I got to the top of Loch Tay. I think I had 3 Rice Krispie Squares bars, full bag of Haribo, and I was like, I'm on the edge here. You know, I could go either way. I could be in the lake. I could keep going, but yeah, it was definitely the hardest thing. It was humbling. It was so difficult. So it definitely wasn't all sunshine and roses whatsoever.
There was a point in Ecotrail where you pretty much go around Roundwood and then you realise you almost have to do the exact same thing again, going back up through Sugarloafs and Bray and all the rest. And considering Roundwood is pretty much close to your family home, how close are you just to, like, it's a lot quicker to get there than it was to get back to Bray, like, were you close to knocking in and be like...
I know my parents met me there in the car park as well, and I was like, just let me get into the back. No one will see. Let me get in the back of the car. No one's going to see. But yeah, 5K home or else 12K around the lake. And I was, to be honest, yeah, even that part's pretty flat, but I struggled through that part just mentally to try and keep your legs going. There's nothing really to take your mind off it. You're still not even halfway. And that was tough.
It's tough because I realized when I got to that point a couple of years ago when I did it, if I don't run here and take advantage of the flat, I have no hope when it gets to the hills, and I might actually miss a cutoff point. I think there's a cutoff point or something on the way back, and I was like, if I don't try and force myself to run here around Roundwood, this could be game over. And it's, as like you say, it's tough. There's not much there. It's just you and the road, and you don't see too many in front and back. The odd time you might talk to someone, that's it. Well, that was my case anyway.
Yeah, it's a very lonely part. And I passed a couple of people coming into Vartry as I was leaving as well. And I was like I completed an 11 and a half, and they were a good 12 to 15K behind me. So I was like, oh God, these lads are in for an awful hard second half of this run, like really hard, like
Yeah.
So like I think they got through it, fair play to them, but yeah, it's lonely.
At what point did you know I might have this?
Coming down Loch Tay, it kind of the ground's like a moss. It's kind of spongy because, well, everything's sore. Your legs are sore, your feet are sore, so it feels a little bit nicer. You know, there's a little bit of a grade down. You start kind of, your legs start kind of moving by themselves, and you're like, right, we'll get it done. We'll get it done. But then you just don't think of the hill coming back, even like the small hill, but up to the Sugarloaf again, and then come back to the small Sugarloaf, and then going back to Brayhead. You forget, you know. But yeah, I thought then, I was like, right, I can get this done. There's 30 kilometers left, which sounds insane when I say it out loud, but you kind of think, yeah, it's doable. It's doable.
I remember getting to, like, it's very similar. I knew going towards Winegates, towards Brayhead, I was like, get over that, I get there. But I told my folks maybe 5 o'clock or something, I might get there, 5:30 or something. Oh, well overshot it. Like, I was like, 5:30, I was still probably 20 odd K out, and be like, well, I'm not making that. And then they text me, oh, we're in Bray, wait. And I was like, fuck, more pressure. And I got to the top, I can't remember what time now, but I got to the top of Brayhead, and I could look down at the seafront, and obviously couldn't see exactly where they are, but I had an idea. I could see the finish line and all the rest. And I just realized, I looked at the watch, I'm like, I'm around 2K away from home, but this downhill is going to be the end of me. How difficult was that downhill in, or was that just me?
It's very hard because there's no even surface. There's nowhere to put your feet at all. And then your quads are broken, your knees are sore. You think it's going to be bliss because you think you're going to coast in, get to the gate, do that little loop down the seafront. But even when you get to the seafront, it's flat, and you have to propel your legs at this point. Yeah, it's no. Oh, it was rough, but not as hard. I forgot because we did it years ago. If you remember, we did the East Coast Weight Loss Challenge, and we took a group up the top of Brayhead. And that's probably the only other time I've been up Brayhead. And I forgot about at least half it, if not 70%. So when I hit it in that morning, I think it took me 12, 15 minutes to do that kilometer. And I was like, my legs are gone, my calves are gone, my lower back's gone, my head's gone. Look, scrap this. I'm a kilometer in, turn around. You know, up and down that hill is torture. And I'm not sure. I think the lads at the front run it as well, which is so impressive.
Yeah, the likes of Ricky Wynn and stuff run that going all the way up, and I was the exact same. That's why I messaged beforehand. I was just like, just pace. I didn't want to put you off it, but I was just like, the start, just pace yourself, because I knew people head off, and you're like, just don't do it.
Oh no, I did. I stuck middle back of the pack, and I just said, let them all go. I was like, I'm not getting mixed up in that madness.
I thought I did a sprint finish across the finish line, and I looked back at the video and I saw the Strava, and I must be doing like a 6 or 6:30 pace, kilometers, getting through the finish line. I crawled through. How did you feel, and how soon after that did you think about your next challenge?
I initially thought I'd never do one again. I initially thought like that's it, you know. But as the days are going on and as I'm looking at numbers, I'm like, there's definitely a 9:30 in there for run trail runs. You know, there's definitely a top 20 in there. And I kind of feel like I have a bit of unfinished business with it. And then I was looking at a Lake District 100K that does this, you run around Lake Windermere. Because like one of the things, and I suppose why I definitely recommend, and I have been recommended trail runs to everyone, you just get to see so much beauty. You get to go up mountains that you'd never be up before. And then everyone's so friendly and so nice. And I suppose because I'm not near the front, that competitive element of the serious lads is taken away from me. But yeah, I think I definitely don't think I'm done with it. I definitely think I'll be back. I might not be back for the 80 next year, but I might be.
It's such a different atmosphere doing trail running, and just like you said, when you're at that stage doing trail run, everyone's just so supportive and just getting people through it. And the amount of trail runs and different events I've done, and long distance stuff as well, that people are there to support each other through, and just there's a Rice Krispie Square, and get yourself through it and stuff like that. It's a really, really cool community. But getting back to you and your online training and everything else, how can people get in touch? And if they were getting in touch with you, what kind of coaching and stuff could they expect from you?
Well, they can get in touch via Instagram. They can drop me a message or anything like that. I suppose coaching wise, it's very much a bespoke sort of all-inclusive service. So a lot of what I do and what I've kind of picked apart over the years of working at UP is just building everything around the individual. The phrase I'd nearly like to put it is the piece of the puzzle that everyone's looking for. We're all aware of fads here, there, and everywhere in the industry that people cling on to. It's the piece of the puzzle is usually the client, the person in front of us. So it's building everything nutritionally, day-to-day, habits-wise around them and what they have. Because people are busy. People have kids. They've got jobs. You can't tell them to go eat four meals a day of X, Y, and Z, and get out for this many steps and do this amount of workout or spend this much time in the gym on this day. It's really a case of, okay, let's take you as the individual, and then let's take your goal and let's create an action challenge that will ensure you get to this goal. Or else let's have an honest conversation to say, okay, we might have to sacrifice something in order to make this goal. But the main aim is to make sure they don't have to sacrifice too much, and then those results always last.
And what is your, I suppose, parting advice for those who are looking to make changes? And as we come towards the year end, people always do it. Me and Sean hate it, this new year, new me crap. It's like, start now. Why wait till Monday? Start today. We're like, just do it. It's not that we're advertising Nike or Nike, give us $1 million or come on the podcast. But if you're giving anyone any kind of advice for what they're looking at for their goals and for what they want to be in themselves or what they think they want to be in themselves, what's the best way to start?
I suppose look at the smallest action with the most return. Typically, if someone will get up in the morning and do a 5-minute walk, they'll have had some victory in the day. They'll feel better. They usually drink some water alongside it, and then they'll be more likely to eat better later in the day. So choose the smallest action with the greatest reward. That could be always different, but I would suggest wake up 15 minutes earlier, habit stack, and say, okay, I'm not going to start drinking my coffee until I'm out the door. Start walking in the street, and then you get your coffee, and you've got some movement in. You're going to feel a lot better, and you're going to have a huge amount of knock on from it. And it's kind of proven with the whole Navy SEALs and make your bed first thing in the morning. So the smallest piece of the puzzle usually has a huge knock on effect.
Oh, it's been absolutely brilliant having the podcast. Congrats again on doing the 80K Ecotrail. Hopefully you've recovered and you're able to walk by maybe Christmas week. You'll be able to start running again.
Fingers crossed.
It's been great having the podcast. If anyone interested in getting your coaching with Owen, we'll have all the information in the show notes as well as his Instagram handle. And that's it for this week's episode of the Any Given Monday podcast. Myself, Owen, and Eric. Take care.